Reporting from Arkham Asylum, this is Gotham Rogues. In this video we take a look at the underrated rogue, Calendar Man. The Calendar Man was introduced in Detective Comics 259, published in 1958. The story, titled The Challenge of the Calendar Man, was written by Bill Finger and penciled by Sheldon Moldoff. In it, a new villain calling himself the Calendar Man sends a public challenge to the Cape Crusader, taunting the hero that he's going to pull off a successful crime spree. The crimes are all based on the 4 seasons: spring, summer, autumn, and winter, and to fit with that theme, the rogue wears a different costume for each caper, symbolizing that season. Like for example, a snowman outfit during the winter heists. The villain also packs serious high-tech weapons, matching each season. Calendar Man is eventually revealed to be a stage magician going by the name Maharaja, and the fiendish fellow is then sent to prison. In jail he would stay for a very long time, namely 21 years, until the villain returned in Batman 312, published in 1979. It was Len Wein and Walt Simonson who decided to bring the character back for a story called A Caper a Day Keeps the Batman at Bay. In this one, Calendar Man has ditched the 4 seasons gimmick, and instead he's going to commit a crime every day for a week, basing each caper on the names of the weekdays. Like for example, a Viking theme for Thursday, which was named after the god of thunder, Thor. Again, he wears a different costume every time to match the theme of the day. At the end, however, Calendar Man introduces what can be considered as a default getup, and which has now become the character's most iconic look. Following this comic, Calendar Man disappeared once again and didn't return for 6 years, namely in a 3-parter published in 1985, written by Doug Monk. It takes place during the final days of the old pre-crisis universe, and in it, the Monitor hires the Calendar Man to kill Batman on behalf of a group of mobsters. The rogue isn't sure that he should accept the contract though, as he's come to realize that challenging Batman is the whole reason for his criminal career. Much like the Joker, Calendar Man doesn't see any point in going on without the Dark Knight. He eventually agrees to off the Batman though, but not before orchestrating the biggest battle between the two yet. Calendar Man will make sure to give their rivalry a proper send-off. This was the first story to explore the character and give him motivations. It's established here that he isn't really all that interested in money. What he mainly cares about is playing a game of wits with Batman, like so many other crazy Gotham rogues. Calendar Man is actually very reluctant about killing the Dark Knight, and would rather not do it. He's also shown not to be a murderer, but merely a thief, making him further question the contract proposed by the Monitor. The character is portrayed as a conflicted, somewhat tormented soul, driven by an obsession with dates and the Batman. This 3-parter also gave Calendar Man a proper name for the first time, Julian Day. While he does wear the iconic red and white costume on the covers of these issues, he never actually sports it in the story. Yet again, Calendar Man dresses up in a different outfit for every crime, never looking the same twice. This, I think, is a detriment to the character, but we'll get more into that later. Julian Day's first appearance in the post-crisis continuity came with Alan Grant and Tim Sale's The Misfits, a 3-parter published in 1992. I've actually reviewed that comic, so if you want a more in-depth look at it, I suggest you check that video out. Basically, the story is about Julian teaming up with 2 other so-called loser villains, Killer Moth and Catman, and together they try to prove themselves as big shot rogues. In this comic, Calendar Man did wear the red and white costume designed by Simonson throughout the entire story even. After this appearance, the character continued to show up here and there, even fighting other DC heroes besides Batman. Then came Delong Halloween in 1996. This infamous maxi-series by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale featured a brand new take on Julian, a complete revamp I should say. Delong Halloween depicts Day as a has-been locked up in Arkham Asylum, forgotten by most of the city. The plot puts him in a Hannibal Lecter type role, having Batman visit Day in his cell, asking for help in a hunt for a new serial killer known as Holiday. This killer always strikes on holidays, so Batman figures that with their similar MO, Calendar Man might hold some insight into the madman's mind. Julian was revamped physically as well, being portrayed as a very pale, bald man. This version of the character returned in the sequel to Long Halloween, Dark Victory, where he's tattooed the names of the months around his head. The Loeb and Sale take on Calendar Man is easily the most famous one, and it's influenced most subsequent appearances by him. However, we have seen the classic Calendar Man return a few times, most notably in 2000's Batman 80-page Giant, an entire giant-size issue dedicated to a Calendar Man epic. This story explores the mental condition of Day and portrays him as crazier than he's ever been. After missing his chance to pull off a caper coinciding with the turn of the new millennium, Julian totally loses it and is then subjected to a harsh treatment method in Arkham Asylum. He's confined in a cell where he's unable to tell when the days begin and end, making it impossible to keep track of what date it is. This sends the poor lunatic into a catatonic state, which the Arkham staff misinterprets as good behavior, eventually leading to Julian's parole. Free once again, a completely unhinged Calendar Man creates a new costume for himself and sets in motion a crime-free, more vicious and grand than ever before. I'd say this is easily the greatest Calendar Man story ever told, so if you're only going to read one, you better make it this one. During the New 52, Julian appeared as a reporter in the backup series Channel 52. Even though I have several parts of this series, I've never actually read any of them, so I'm not entirely sure what they're about. They seem to be some kind of meta fourth world breaking thing though, although I'm not sure. Calendar Man has appeared in DC Rebirth too, reimagined as a metahuman whose body ages and rejuvenates according to the seasons. As for other media, a Calendar Girl appeared on the new Batman Adventures, who's clearly a different take on Julian. The actual Calendar Man did show up on The Brave and the Bold, and he was of course most notably featured in the Arkham game series, appearing most prominently in Arkham City, although even there his role is nothing more but a cameo. I know some people would disagree with my statement that Calendar Man is an underrated rogue, because the character does have a reputation of being a bad or goofy villain. I've seen him show up on lists of the worst bat rogues, and really it's also just the general sense that fans talk about him. Most seem to have a very low opinion of him, even the comics themselves does. I don't quite understand why that is. I mean, why is a date or calendar theme goofier than riddles, jokes, crimes based on cats, birds, or the number 2? It's all goofy depending on how you depict it. It is true that Julian is often written as a silly villain, but he doesn't need to be. He has the potential to be as good as the Riddler. Remember, even Riddler has been treated as a D-list loser villain, most notably in the 80s. But look how that turned around. The same should happen with Julian in my opinion. Committing crimes around special dates on a calendar has the potential to be a great villain gimmick. It could lead to some amazing stories highlighting the detective aspect of Batman. Plus, just like Riddles or Harvey's duality, it could be portrayed as a fascinating mental illness. We did get that in the 80-page Giant, which I again highly recommend. It's Batman 80-page Giant number 3, published in 2000. But it isn't the prevailing portrayal of Calendar Man that's known to the public. Since so few stories use the guy properly, and since he appears so seldom in the first place, most people see Calendar Man as the goofy loser villain, akin to Killer Moth. Either that or they just think of Delong Halloween, which also kinda depicted him as a loser villain. Don't get me wrong, I don't dislike his appearance in Delong Halloween, but he is portrayed as a has-been and spends the entire story locked up, never really doing anything. Is that supposed to be the character's greatest appearance? Some probably assume it is, as it is the most famous one. Then we have Arkham City, which is basically the same thing. He's locked up and says some cryptic things. That seems to be the guy's new gimmick, being locked up. I have a theory as to why Julian has fallen to this fate, why he's a member of the losers. The costume. He just doesn't have a good visual design. For a long time, his shtick was even to keep changing outfits. That's a very bad idea, as when your character never looks the same, lacking a recognizable visual, he's not going to stick. Plus, most of the costumes he used were pretty lame. We do have the red and white outfit though, which is kind of the standard Calendar Man look, but it isn't that great. I don't think it's terrible, but it could have been a lot better. His newer Long Halloween inspired design isn't all that amazing either. It's just a bald dude. Maybe the guy should take a page from the Riddler's wardrobe and wear a red suit with white calendar dates all over it. If you're an artist, I challenge you to come up with a good Calendar Man design. Post a link to it here in the comments. Also, let me know what you guys think of Julian Day. Do you agree with me that he has the potential to be a great Batman rogue? Or do you think the guy's a lame loser who should remain a joke of a character? And as always, remember, Arkham Asylum awaits you in the next video.